Hi, welcome to the 4th Annual State of the Schools. My name is Lyle Brown and I have the honor of being the Executive Director of the Zionsville Education Foundation. This is one of my favorite events every year because we have the chance to work with the Zionsville Chamber of Commerce, the Zionsville Community Schools, to help you learn more about the great work being done in their schools. ZEF is a separate nonprofit that raises funds to promote academic excellence in our schools. As we mark our 25th anniversary in these most unusual of times, we find that there is more reason than ever to celebrate the work being done by teachers, administrators, and staff in the Zionsville Community Schools. There is no training manual for this. What they're doing is hard. Last year, ZEF granted more than $130,000 to teachers, students, and schools to fund their innovative ideas. These grants enable educators to dream big by providing funding not available in tight school budgets. Whether it is video production equipment to help with virtual events, unique and life-changing professional development opportunities, cultural understanding books for elementary students, a speaker series for middle school boys and girls, or tools to help start a robotics team, ZEF helps bring their ideas to life. But none of this would be possible without your generosity. Even during these uncertain times, our community is stepping up to help fund teachers' immediate needs and creative ideas. Families and individuals are donating to our Back to School annual campaign. Local small businesses are on board as ZEF Bash sponsors and are donating items for our silent auction. Corporate partners are renewing their commitment. We simply couldn't do it without these partnerships. But we need your help too. For this year's fall fundraiser, we have switched things up a bit to provide a safe way for everyone to participate. I hope you'll join us on Saturday, November 14th for ZEF Bash, a virtual trivia night event. You can sign up to be a team captain and play with your team of 8, form a family team, or make it a date night. You can play from the comfort of your own home, gather with your team in person or via Zoom, or make a reservation at one of our partner restaurants. All the information can be found on our website at www.zionsvilleeducationfoundation.org. On behalf of our fantastic volunteer board and the talented Julie Bradley, who I get to work with every day, thank you. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for helping ZEF celebrate 25 great years. And thank you for being here today to learn more about the amazing work in our schools. I also have the pleasure of introducing you to Allison Gutwein, Executive Director for the Zionsville Chamber. Allison's been on the job less than a year, but I think we can all agree that she and her team have hit the ground running and do so much to advocate for our town, our businesses, and our people. Welcome, Allison.
Thank you so much, Lyle. The Zionsville Chamber of Commerce is a fantastic organization that represents the business community in our town and beyond. This is an important relationship with the schools that we have because we really are working in conjunction with so many people in order to make sure that this town, our town, is important and has the business leaders cultivated to develop our town in the future. This is a great experience that the Zionsville Chamber of Commerce has to host the State of the Schools breakfast with ZEF and Zionsville Community Schools. We are so thankful that you joined us. We would like to introduce Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Scott Robison, and his team of school officials.
Thanks so much, Allison. It is great to be here for a first attempt to do YouTube Live in this way for our State of the Schools event. We so appreciate the partnership of ZEF and the Chamber of Commerce as we get rolling today. We have a lot of interesting and fun things to talk about, to review the past year, to talk with confidence about our navigation of COVID-19 and all things that it means in its continuing and evolving state. And so let's get rolling.
Gonna be a little something more. I've got a plan in mind, a special thing.
Got Robison here in front of beautiful Stonegate Elementary School. The rain has gone away on this Monday, and it is the first day of school. And I'm here with the Eagle doing a wing bump. Doing a wing bump. There we go. Let's go, Eagles. Hello. How are you, Mrs. Brand? Great to see you, and little Brent's in tow.
Well, another big thanks to Janet Mann, the producer of our videos. We do have a few videos interspersed throughout this, although more brief than that one, a minute or 2 minutes each, just so that you can continue to see the faces of the reason we exist. Obviously, our doors are put open each day really for one reason, and that is for student growth. And so let's talk about these important things that have occurred and that continue to occur as we navigate COVID-19 in a place that is so great to come of age. Our students are so very lucky because of the great parenting we see in our schools, in our homes, and the match that we have and the partnership with our faculty and staff in schools to hopefully align with those hopes and dreams that parents have for their youth. So let's move to welcoming everyone to this live stream, our first ever effort of this sort, to my colleagues who are elsewhere in the building. As we Zoom in safe places, each of us in our own spot. Please note that I tossed my cell phone because it apparently was interrupting the signal of our first videos. So when I tossed it, and this is apropos for the day, if you're a person who is looking at social media and its impacts, my phone bounced on the chair and went promptly in the trash can. So we'll see if I can retrieve it later. Folks, Zionsville Community Schools really committed to student growth. We have so many positives to share with you that we will exhaust our hour certainly, and we will save some time at the end. But please note that we can't cover the waterfront of all of the great things that are happening with and for kids in our schools. And you see here on the screen that we have more than 7,300 students this year, 52 native languages spoken here. And as we'll talk about commencement in a moment, we had another very high graduation rate and continue to see that success for our youth. Well, we'll be highlighting successes and challenges. We'll talk about the referenda and the progress that's happening in that regard. COVID-19, of course, graduation we'll touch upon. The STAR partnership, Star Bank has opened in our facility, and that's a great thing. And this whole new sort of strange year that's happening, and certainly because it's been a popular aspect of the 4 years we've done the State of the School Stress, Mike Schaefer will talk about the finances, not only based on COVID, but based on his continuing leadership and stewardship of our finances here in the community.
The state of our Zionsville Community Schools
is open, working, caring,
clean, careful,
mask up, noisy, and thriving.
Some of us are in person, some of us are online.
All of us are lucky to be in places where we can learn and grow.
The state of students of the Zionsville Community Schools is grateful,
learning, growing,
laughing, playing, talking, singing together.
You see, together we can, together we are.
The late children's author Maurice Sendak
closed his last public interview with the following words:
live your life, live your life, live your life.
The state of the school in our Zionsville Community Schools is as Mr. Sendak suggested.
We are living our life. We are thriving in spite of COVID-19.
We are eagles. Eagles soar.
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 Eagles soar. Eagles soar.
Eagles soar.
Eagles soar, and it is this place, just a huge circle of opportunity, concentric circles of opportunity for our students and for our staff and for the community as we interact once again in a new and robust way as we continue to navigate what's been happening with COVID-19. We thank the community for our successful referenda last year, and to kick off a presentation about what's been going on in that regard, at least with regard to the capital part of that, the construction part of that, I'd like to welcome our Assistant Superintendent for Operations, Mrs. Becky Kaufman. Becky?
Hi, thanks, Scott. And I'm really excited just to share some of the progress that we've made in the last year since we were so grateful for the support of the community last November. We had on the ballot the question about the construction referendum, which was an $89 million enterprise that really encompasses three major aspects. The first being the necessary need to expand our Zionsville Community High School campus. Looking at our enrollment projections, we know that we have a need for that additional capacity to serve the students and children of our community, as well as remodel some of those spaces that are original to the high school, originally constructed in 1967. So we're in the process now of finalizing the plans for the high school addition and remodel project. We're hoping to bid that work late this year, potentially in December, so that we can get those plans underway. So it's a really exciting time. Additionally, we're looking at our enrollment growth and planning ahead for the 6th elementary. And so just this past July, we had received bids. Our school board of trustees awarded contracts in August, and we had our groundbreaking just weeks ago. And so we are anticipating opening up the 6th elementary to serve the students of Eagle and Union Township in the fall of 2022. So really excited. Those are two big projects that are underway in our community. Moving along though, the third aspect of that project, or that referendum, excuse me, were all the additional needs that we had across our 8 campuses to maintain healthy learning environments for our students. One of those locations is Boone Meadow Elementary, which is nearing capacity itself. Boone Meadow was originally constructed to serve as a middle school space. So we had some spaces at Boone Meadow that were large musical spaces, and we've been in the process throughout the summer of renovating those spaces to accommodate additional K-4 classrooms. And really excited, this week we're installing some of the final touches. We have furniture that will be arriving over the fall break. Those spaces are going to be serving students in the very near future. Also at Boone Meadow this summer, we had replaced the chiller to provide the appropriate cooling and ventilation needs at Boone Meadow Elementary. So very excited about that. At Union Elementary, we also had a very large project to update some of the exterior sidewalk across the perimeter that had definitely demonstrated some needed attention just with annual freeze-thaw events across central Indiana. Additionally, we did some work on the kindergarten playground, the hardtop surface. And at Eagle Elementary, we were really excited to take a look at some of those spaces, particularly the 1953 and the 1961 restrooms, and do a renovation of those spaces to serve our children. At Stonegate, we did replace a fire alarm panel that had given us fits and starts over the years. All of those electrical pieces do have a life expectancy. And so we were glad to get that done this summer before students returned. And at Zionsville Middle School, we had a couple of things taking place. We reconstructed the track, which was original to the building, about 20 years old. That building opened in 2001. As well as both middle schools, we did a revamp of the outdoor learning space. Those structures have been refurbished. That work is still being completed as we speak with you this morning. And at Zionsville Community High School, we took a look at some of the needs, particularly replacing the carpet in the Western academic portion that had been in place since 1998, as well as some carpeting in the PAC and a dimming system that's in the Performing Arts Center. Some additional items that have been happening as we've prepared for increased ventilation with COVID. There are a number of units that serve individual spaces that we've replaced at Eagle Elementary, Pleasant View, as well as the high school. We currently have bids that are out that we should be receiving tomorrow to replace chillers at Zionsville West, Stonegate, as well as Eagle Elementary. So very excited about those projects coming on board. Another project that's interesting that we're in the midst of reviewing with the town is an expansion to our transportation center. The transportation center was open in the late 90s when we had just 3 of our current 8 buildings open. So we've opened 5 buildings since that time. We've had a tremendous amount of growth, and we want to continue to expand both for bus parking as well as parking for our drivers. And so those plans are underway to take place over near the Zionsville Middle School campus. And again, at the high school, just really looking at, as we remodel and add on to the space, what are those needs as we bring the 1967 version of Zionsville Community High School into its 6A platform that we are today. So really excited about all of these projects. Moving ahead, we have our eyes again, just to recap, on the new elementary, as well as the addition at the high school. And while all of those projects are happening, there's certainly our day-to-day operations and how we serve students, how we serve our employees. And I just want to touch on, we definitely have a need across the community to make sure we are able to staff appropriately daily as we're responsive to what COVID challenges bring throughout the week. So we do have a need for adding on to our fleet of professional drivers. We're always looking for qualified people who are ready to serve as substitute teachers, as well as instructional assistants to support our food service needs. So any opportunity that you have to share with those who might be looking for their next position or a way to give back to the community, to be gainfully employed, we invite you to connect with us because we have a position waiting for you. So thank you, Scott. That's all I have at the moment. And
thank you so much, Becky. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
You know, we continue to move forward with our Strong in Every Way initiative, which has been in force for about 4.5 years. Strong in Every Way is an aspirational item within the purview of our schools as we aspire to help our students come of age and be as strong as can possibly be their strengths in all areas. And so you see that communicated by us. As I said, you see it communicated by us really in your face. And it really has 3 particular domains, one about connections for youth. We know that when we have 1 or more, and we'd like to get 5 really distinct connections for every kid to uplift them and be mentors throughout their foundational years, in addition to parents. And so we certainly work to make sure that those conditions of connections are appropriate for our students. Assets and resources really speaks to the ways that we have engaged in various conversations with parents, with guest speakers, with professional development for staff, ways that we've attempted to create a repository of opportunities, information, and experiences that will help our students be resilient and gain those traits that I'll tell you about in just a minute. And then one that Chris Devereaux will speak about in a minute is the cultural understandings domain. So those 3 domains really comprise the Strong in Every Way initiative. There are 5 so-called traits of success that we've been working on for a number of years through classroom guidance with our counselors, teachers also leveraging these 5 traits. They are compassion, confidence, determination, ethics, and wellness, and really causing those to flourish in the early goal setting of our students and just in the minds of kids as they come of age as 5 guiding areas of characteristics that can enhance their lives and have them prepared for the real world. So that is a perfect time for us to hear from Chris Devereaux, who is our Assistant Superintendent for Academics. Chris has a number of things that she'd like to share with us about what's happening on that side of our house. Chris?
Thank you, Scott. Good morning, everyone. I want to just take a couple of minutes to talk with you about the academic priorities for Zionsville Community Schools. We have 2, and you may be surprised to see that neither one of them mentions testing or scores or anything like that. We believe here at Zionsville Community Schools that in order for students to have academic success, we need to have 2 places and pieces in the foundation of that, and that is the social emotional learning of students and student empowerment and voice. And for those things, social emotional learning, we know it's extremely important for kids to be connected and have high relationships in the classroom with teachers and with each other. And for student empowerment and voice, we want to make sure that students have a voice in their lives and their academics, and that we support those passions. We know that a sense of belonging is key to academic success, and so that's why these are our 2 academic priorities. Also, academic services is the division as part of our division here, and we have a lot of things that happen. Everything, as you'll see as Scott clicks through, from presentations to instructional materials review. We also obviously helped with this new teaching of COVID with the hybrid and in-person and remote only. We brought in national presenters over the last several years, along with supporting our travel studies so that kids get to see a global view of the world and visit those places. And we've also done a variety of things as well. Last year was our English language arts adoption, and this year is our social studies adoption. And some of you may have attended our Strong Community Series events where we gather, talk, and act as a community, where we've had presenters in a variety of community events around that. We also have, as Scott mentioned earlier, a cultural understandings district team, but we are just beginning this school year with school-based teams and equity champions as well at each of our 8 schools. And then finally, the professional development piece is an ongoing piece that we work on, not only with cultural understandings, but with instructional practices, literacy, numeracy, and other ways to make sure that we are meeting our students' academic needs. One of the things that is incredibly important to us here in Zionsville Community Schools is giving students multiple perspectives. And we do that through what we call mirrors, windows, and doors. We always want to, in our instructional materials and practices, give students mirrors to see themselves, windows to see others, and doors as an opportunity to learn from others. And when we do that, we think we're giving students a 360-degree view of issues and topics so that they can make their decisions after being fully informed with all perspectives. We have an Everyone Belongs Here district statement that you will see here on the screen, and I'm incredibly proud to say that this was written by students. Our district cultural understandings team, made up of educators and administrators, created a framework for this statement. And then I took it to our middle school and high schoolers and asked for their input. And just as kids will always do, they were brutally honest and reworked the whole thing. These words came directly from our students. And these are the things that they thought were most important as a district and for our school to stand for. And I love the fact that they were really intentional about the words that they chose and that they wanted you and us to hear. And those are words like building relationships and preparing youth and celebrating our differences and being very intentional and understanding that hate has no home in ZCS. We are incredibly fortunate to have the support and partnership of ZEF. As always, ZEF supports us in the classroom with a variety of things, but they also support us in our own professional development. You'll see here a picture of about 40 educators, administrators, and teachers, and a board member who took a professional development trip in this past February before COVID. We were really fortunate to go to Washington, D.C. to visit museums there. We visited the African American Museum, the Holocaust Museum, and the Native American Museum. And then we did some professional development around those different experiences. And then we went to Montgomery, Alabama, where we were able to visit the National Memorial for Peace and Justice, the Legacy Museum, and hear from the Equal Justice Initiative and continue our professional development. We absolutely could not have done this trip without the support of ZEF. And so I just want to thank them again publicly for this incredible life-changing experience for all of our teachers and administrators. Finally, I just want to bring up one of the things with cultural understandings that is important to us is to continue conversations with our community. So something that we started last year is called Food for Thought. And last year we were able to host 3 different events at local restaurants who partnered with us. Thank you to those restaurants. And we were able to engage our community members in conversations around what is a community. We are going to continue Food for Thought this year, although it'll look a bit different in these COVID times. So please look for information coming about how you can join our community conversation around Food for Thought. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you so much, Chris. Much appreciated. And it's an appropriate time as we look at this young man on his first day of school to say a huge thanks to both Becky Kaufman and Chris Devereaux, who have led the 2 large lanes of our COVID task force since March. They've just been amazing, as Mike Schaefer, our CFO, and I have supported around the edges and assisted with their really fine implementation of all of the checks and balances that we have to have as we do what we need to do during COVID-19, which began for us on March 12th, as many of us remember. That was the day we set about to close down our schools because of the global pandemic. This is a view of how it felt at that point. love the truth and the warmth that Janet Mann brings to her work. You know, the pandemic did change the face of our work. For many months, March through May, it was a very difficult slog for families and for our faculty as they were trying to curate all of their work onto a digital platform that really was brand new for them in a day-to-day way to make happen. So kudos to all who were involved, the parents who were trying to work from home remotely and deal with that shutdown. Obviously, we all remember that that was a profound experience that hit us variously according to the things that were happening in our lives and our families. And so we attempted to do our best to persevere, and we know that some students were served very, very well by that, some less so. We did, in the end, achieve outstandingly with regard to the students who were finishing, those intrepid seniors who went through their senior year missing some of those things that the rest of us had experienced in our lives when we were doing those rites of passage as 12th graders in our high school careers. Our seniors ended up getting sort of a double dose of congratulations because things remained closed throughout our commencement date. And we had all of these hours of community service from these kids, and some of that continued during the time that we were in the COVID lockdown. We had so much money that this group of seniors over their careers in the high school donated to charity. As I mentioned earlier, we had a very high graduation rate, and we continued to uplift those students who have have language barriers, and certainly very, very bright kids who come from other cultures and other places, and we uplift them to make the language work so that their significant smarts can show up here and manifest such that they can graduate from our high school. We did unique things to get through our commencement to ensure that they were lauded as they needed to be as those folks who were going on to the next step. And so we did kind of a double duty graduation. We had a virtual graduation that was beautifully designed, and it's a good opportunity to say thanks to Isaac and Chris, who were the spearheads technologically for making that happen. And then they turned around and put together, with the help of our entire high school team, a live graduation that was really very, very special, and in a venue that we've never done before, and that was on the turf field out there at the stadium, at the Ascension St. Vincent Stadium, and it was really a beautiful event in mid-July. So here is a view a view of what happened as we were trying to vamp for some time to learn what the actual graduation ceremony would be like. We had great help from the town of Zionsville and Whitestown as we utilized some of their equipment, as you'll see.
a moment and make it. Write your headline and raise it to the sky. No one else can create it. Take your banner and raise it to the sky.
Well, what perfect timing. Here we are now in school. And in fact, last evening in our board meeting, we discussed the plan to open schools more fully for grades 5 through 12, starting on September 28th. Of course, we have to acknowledge that this is very much a moving picture, that everything is fluid and still evolving. We will continue to look at data, not only from the Boone County Health Department, but also from the state, to ensure that we are in that sort of low ebb that we've seen in the last 2 weeks, as reported by the state and by the county. And as long as that continues, while employing our mitigation strategies, we believe that we can go back to school safely. And obviously we'll monitor what happens as we come out of Labor Day weekend. And we have a couple of weeks before the 28th of September to look at those data again a few more times to ensure that we're in the right zone. So please note that if this is news to you or a revelation to you, that we will be monitoring things closely, and it could turn on a dime. So with that caveat, we say that we will be implementing full 5-day school for all of our students on September 28th. Obviously, we'll still offer the remote option for parents, as has been chosen since July by them. We'll actually give everyone another opportunity to answer a survey about that. Coming out of that last video, I want to say thanks to police and fire in Whitestown and Zionsville, and certainly our county police who are resident in our schools, some of our schools on a daily basis. We could not do school without the 24/7, 365 help that we have from public safety across this county, and certainly in the municipalities we serve so directly, both Whitestown and Zionsville. Zionsville Police and Fire ever present for us in helping us ensure that we're implementing safely. So thank you very, very much. And thanks for allowing us to borrow your equipment. Tim East and I got to ride. I mean, these are old guys, sorry, Tim, who got to do a little boy thing. We get to ride on fire trucks for hours. It was just fantastic. It was really fun. And we think our graduates felt suitably lauded, suitably, impressively feted for their work. So let's move on. We are here. It's a new school year. We have new partners to talk about, and we're going to let them talk about it themselves here.
To the Zionsville community, thank you. I'm Jim Marcaselli, Chairman and CEO of Star Financial Bank.
And I'm Kristen Marcaselli, Jim's daughter and Chief Operating Officer at Star. We are honored to join you virtually and could not be more excited to share that our newest and most innovative Star location is now open. We're proud to have it located on the campus of Zionsville High School, and we sincerely look forward to serving you.
We appreciate the warm welcome you've given us. Our initial partnership announcement to support the Zionsville Performing Arts Center happened nearly 1 year ago, and without question, much has happened since that time. I'd like to share a little bit about Star. While we're still relatively new to the Zionsville market, we've been in business for over 77 years. We employ about 550 employees and have 42 locations serving Central and Northeast Indiana. We're one of the few family-owned, privately held community banks in the state, and our mission is to deliver first-class financial advice, security, and personalized service.
When the core values of our organization so perfectly align with yours, to do what's right, to be progressive, and commit to lifelong learning, we knew that this Star Banking Center could be so much more than just a traditional branch. It's now the home to our first immersive learning environment, where students and faculty can get hands-on experience with the latest technology and practices in financial services. To say that this partnership is a special one for the entire Star family is an understatement. We take the roles of offering you safe and sound financial services while also delivering on our commitment to developing Indiana's future talent seriously. We hope that you'll agree when you see the unique space we've created together.
Please stop in and visit us. It's a one-of-a-kind location, complete with a learning zone and video conferencing capabilities to connect you with anyone on the Star team. Our friendly bankers and advisors are deeply experienced and are committed to supporting your financial needs. We look forward to serving you. To the
Well, we are so impressed to have STAR with us and know that it will mean great partnerships and opportunities for our students. And I do hope that you will come in and take a look at their new setup. It's really something fun. And I got to be the first person to actually open an account with Star Bank at their new location. So that's great. It's time now to quickly hear from Mike Schaefer, who is our Chief Financial Officer. Mike has some things to share about finances that seem to be popular with all the folks who have seen this in the past, and we are so appreciative that you've come back. Mike?
Well, thank you. When we look at our state of our schools and talk about finances, normally there are two things people want to know. Where do we get the money and what do we do with it? And so I'm going to give you a really quick thumbnail of a couple of those things. First of all, where do we get the money? Well, we get money from the state through state support. For 2021, we're estimating that we'll get about $47 million. And then we get local property taxes, which will be about another $40 million. In terms of what we do with these things, well, that's something that is really pretty detailed. And so I'm just going to put a plug in right now. For October the 5th, we'll be having our full budget hearing in front of the school board. The general public is invited. So if you want to know what we do with our money, come out and we'll talk about that in detail. In the meantime, there's one thing that is important for us to tell you this morning. We've told you a bunch of times before, and I have tired of saying it, but I have to. Zionsville Community Schools is the lowest funded per pupil school corporation in the state. That's because of the way the state funding formula works. The state funding formula determines how much money you get per pupil by having a foundation amount, which is basically a standard amount every school gets per pupil, plus a variable amount, which is based on the poverty in that area. If you look at that on the screen now, you'll see the computation here. And here's how the math works for Zionsville Community Schools. We just lost Scott here, I think. I can't click that. Scott, I can't click that. Oh, thank you. So the foundation amount for 2021 is $57.03. The complexity amount is $36.75. And we get a percentage of that based on the percentage of poverty in the community. Our percentage is 1.19%. So we have 1.19% of $3,675 to add to the $57.03. The percentage works out to $44, gets us to $57.47. That is the lowest in the state. We are currently 289th out of 289 school districts. We are a bit concerned about the state money because the state has seen a large shortfall in the last several months due to the COVID pandemic and the recession that has endangered. We'll be looking at that very carefully going forward. Those of us who were around in 2009 remember that the recession then caused the state to suddenly overnight basically cut $300 million out of state funding for schools. And so we are looking at, well, what happens next time around. We think that there could be a very rainy day for schools coming up in 21 and 22. And so we've already done some modeling and looked at how much money a cut of 5%, 10%, 15% in the state level would be. What does that mean for us? Because the way it goes back through the formula, we actually lose a little less than the average. So that's one time when being at the bottom in funding actually is in our favor, but we would still be losing large amounts of money. So we do have a 5-year plan that we are working on now that is constructed to cope with a large shortfall from the state. In the meantime, we also have getting the question, well, what about the federal government? We hear about the CARES Act. We see where some school corporations got 5 million, 7 million, 20 million. Well, the formula that distributes the CARES Act money is actually even less favorable to us than the state funding formula, believe it or not. And so by the time all is said and done, the share that Zionsville gets of all those millions of dollars that you read about in the paper is $57,800 and change. So we've already spent more than that on sanitizer and personal protection equipment. So there's not much help there. The good news for us is that we have done multi-year financial forecasting. We are now in a 20-year strategic plan to manage our tax rate. Year 2021 is actually the 7th year of that plan. And so we are looking at managing our tax rate, keeping it very, very stable and very reasonable. I see on social media every once in a while somebody talks about Zionsville's high taxes. But what's the truth here? Well, here's the truth. We've been looking at the same 20 group peers for years now, actually since 2010, and we are 17th in tax rate out of 20. We're about 1.5 cents higher than Carmel. We're below Fishers, we're below Westfield, we're below Brownsburg, Noblesville, Avon. Our tax rate is very reasonable, and our forecast for 2021 is very similar to our forecast for 2020. In fact, it's identical. We believe we will sustain the tax rate at the rate we have now, about $1.30, which we lowered it from in 2014. We think we will maintain that for the next decade and beyond. So property tax is good. State funding, we're still a little iffy in terms of what happens with the state. And that is the state of the schools in terms of finance.
Thank you so much, Mike. We so appreciate all that you do for us and for the community. Mike is often sought after by local folks who are doing municipal and other financing because he's such a guru in this area. It is my pleasure to thank you for being here and having the privilege of some of your time today. I know that we're going to run now into our Q&A, and that is a fun part for us to get to next as we move on with the rest of our time together.
Good morning, everybody. This is Allison Gutwein of the Zionsville Chamber of Commerce. This morning, Zionsville Chamber of Commerce members are asking questions submitted online prior to today. The first question comes to us about the new school from Tracy Dahl of Francis Park.
Hi, my name is Tracy Dahl and I'm with Francis Park on Main Street in Zionsville, and I have 3 questions. First, what is the timeline for the opening of the new elementary school? Second, where will it be located? And third, will this affect school boundaries? Thank you.
Great question, and I so appreciate you asking. The timeline, we're hoping to have substantial completion of the new elementary by spring of 22 so that we can prepare it and staff it and have it open by fall of 2022 for the 2022-2023 school year. It will be located just north of the athletic complex where our varsity softball and baseball fields are located. So that is over along County Road 875, just east of the Hampshire development, west of the Cobblestone development. And in terms of school boundaries, actually in about a year from now, we will be engaged with new demographic information and enrollment projections to be engaged in a process with the community to look at all of our school boundaries as we open up the 6th elementary school, likely to make that decision then in the early winter of 2022. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. The second question comes to us from Edward Jones representative Lee Irwin about taxes and finances.
Hi, I'm Lee Irwin with Edward Jones here in Zionsville, and my question is around the finances related to COVID and the impact on schools. We've seen so many impacts with hybrid schedules and the operations and all the adjustments you've had to make, tons of hand sanitizer. But what has that done for the school's budget and the financial resources with COVID this year?
Well, that is a great question. The school budget so far has seen some impacts that we do have some concerns about. Some of our local revenues that we derive from things like rental income and other things like that have taken some hits. We are really looking forward to seeing what happens with the legislature, because that's where the real action for us is at. The governor, of course, has given his word that there'll be no cuts in state funding up through the end of this calendar year. But in January, the legislature will come back and write a new budget and a new funding formula, and that is where we are looking to see what happens going forward. In the meantime, the news from the state budget agency, they actually had a report that just came out yesterday, is better than we expected. In fact, the state got down to as low as $1.4 billion below projection in revenues as of June 30th. But since then, they have recouped several $100 million to where now that they're only down at a negative of about 500 million, which is well within the balances that they had for rainy days. And so the question is whether or not the economy stays open, whether revenues continue to increase, whether they run at projection through the rest of the year, or whether in fact we see some kind of reclosing or retrenchment. Once we know those things, then we will be able to answer that question better. In the meantime, the state should be coming out with a new revenue forecast sometime later this fall that will give us kind of an interim look. They'll be looking at additional forecasts in December and next April. And the next April one is the one that will be the final determinant in what happens with the budget for both the state and the local school corps going forward from that point.
Thank you so much, Mike. The third question is being asked by 530 homeowner Erica Carpenter with regard to diversity.
Hi, Erica Carpenter from 530 Home and proud mom of 4 kids in the Zionsville School District. My question is regarding diversity and what are the district's goals for diversity for families, for students, for staff, and how can we in the community help this effort?
Thanks for another great question. I'll kick this off and ask that Chris Devereaux come in to back cleanup. Certainly, our foremost goal, as Chris alluded to earlier, is to ensure that our students can see themselves in what's happening and that they can grow up with a multiple lens perspective such that they can go out into the world and be productive and enjoy a high achievement and a quality life. It is very unlikely that the majority of our students will actually stay in what some folks refer to as the Zionsville bubble. Chris, you want to take it from there?
Yes, I actually, thank you, Scott. We'll address the last part of Erica's question about what can you do as a community and family members. And really 2 quick things come to mind. One of those things would be to participate in some of our community events, like our Strong Communities presentations and food for thought, and to engage in these conversations with each other. And another one you may have seen in a lot of our school newsletters, we partnered with the Zionsville Diversity Coalition for a book drive to get, again, those mirrors and windows, those different perspectives of novels and picture books in our classrooms. And so helping to support initiatives like that is super helpful for us and helpful for our students as well.
Thank you so much, Scott and Chris. Deirdre Roush of the Cabin Counseling and Resource Center has the final question about emotional health.
My name is Deirdre Roush, and I'm the Executive Director of the Cabin Counseling and Resource Center here in Zionsville and also offices in Westfield. And certainly throughout this pandemic, we have seen an incredible escalation in the need for services. With any life instance where it's unpredictable, uncontrollable, with no end in sight, it's expected that stress and anxiety will go off the rails. So certainly with our students, we're seeing increased anxiety, increased loneliness, depression, insomnia, and suicidality. And I'm really curious what the school is seeing in the students. Also, I'm curious how we and the community can help you during this time. And lastly, what can parents do at home to help their student?
Certainly, we appreciate those questions because as we talked about earlier in this presentation, relationships are so critical to everything that we do. To be responsive to the needs both of our students as well as staff, we do have a number of things in place. One of which being our MOU that we have with Integrative Wellness. So there are a number of different agencies within Boone County that support our students. We've worked alongside many of them over the years, and presently we do have Integrative Wellness as a partner to help conduct crisis assessments and crisis evaluations when those needs arise, and they do. We also have the Dynamic Student Support Team, which is comprised of our Director of School Safety, our social workers, our neuropsychologists on staff, and various other individuals as well, so that we can be responsive to the needs of our students and families as they may have a need for wrap services within the community or other supports that will help them be successful in the school environment. And Chris and Scott, certainly please chime in if you have other things that you'd like to add to that. But to Deirdre's question, it is so important that we are very mindful and intentional about supporting our students' emotional needs.
One thing I will add, Becky, to what you just said is we do have our second step in SEL curriculum that we have been using in all of our schools. And families at home can do simple things as well, just to help alleviate stress when it comes to school, like a visual calendar, setting timers, and making sure that when their students are at home learning, they're getting that healthy breakfast and lunch and some recess time while at home as well. All of those things really do help alleviate some stress. Thank you for the question.
Thank you all for your answers. Those were extremely poignant and important issues for all of us. We would like to thank Dr. Scott Robison, Rebecca Kaufman, Chris Devereaux, and Mike Schaefer for their participation in the State of the Schools virtual business breakfast this morning. The leadership from the school corporation helps to bring about and inspire change, growth, learning, and forward thinking. We are proud to partner with this team to bring pertinent information to our members and the community. We would also like to thank the ZEF team, Lyle Brown, Julie Bradley, for their hard work and participation this morning. By awarding funds for innovative educational initiatives, Zionsville Education Foundation encourages educators to think big. They do great things for the teachers in the schools, and it takes your help to make this happen. Isaac and Chris from the tech team here at ZCS have made this event today work in a new virtual format. Big thanks to them. The final superb team I should mention is the Zionsville Chamber team. They are making sure that we continue to advocate for, educate, and connect our members. Rachel Vining, Events Manager, and Emily Ritchie, Membership Manager, do superior work, and we are lucky to have them. Thank you to the ZCOC Board and ambassadors as well. Please follow the Zionsville Chamber on social media for the most up-to-date information and how you can support our local businesses. From all of us at the Zionsville Chamber of Commerce and Zionsville Community Schools, we appreciate your participation today, and please join us again. Go Eagles.
Thank you.